1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That is definitely a wrap for day. So we just finished obviously shooting a load of content for Light program. Basically tons and tons of designs where people can just follow along. But the main emphasis in this like batch is to just really hammer and drill all the lessons that they've learned so far and just put the line work into practice. And I've been getting asked quite a lot recently from either people just starting out, not on the course, just starting out in industry, or even some that have been going like maybe up to a year even in some cases. But how do you get straight lines without the blowouts or without the wobbly bits? And I just wanted to make a video and get a fucking whiteboard. Because it says, what fucking hell, every time. Right, let me try and get this somewhere where it looks presentable so we can actually fucking see it. This is what happens. So, where's my pen? So, tattooing a straight line and you're getting blowouts. So I've obviously got straight line with problem blowouts. Anybody on my full course, they're never gonna have this problem because I learn in a particular way, and anybody that's tattooing a person should already know this. So it's like I repeat myself every time these artists message me, especially if they're in a shop and they're actually tattooing people and they're suffering from this problem. In all honesty, it should have never have actually happened, because this should have been taught while learning before ever tattooing a person. So there's two main things. Point A, or one, is the machine angle. Now I'm gonna explain both of these like individually, just so it fully makes sense. But the next one is obviously the obvious one, depth. These are the two things, especially with line work, that if you don't get right, is gonna cause that blowout. Whether it's a straight line, curved line, any type of line, these are gonna be the culprits, if that makes sense, that causes the blowout. So Ben, what does like angle mean? If you've been on a course, this totally makes sense to you. But let me show you what it means. So not everybody knows what I actually mean by angle. For anybody that's not done it and not been taught this, this is what I mean. So that's the skin, the surface of the skin. We've got a machine with a needle that hits the skin. Now, the ink is deposited, the needle penetrates and it deposits the ink. The machine angle in this case, from a front view, is upright. Might be leaning back or forwards, but from the front, it's upright. So the ink is going to be deposited directly underneath where the needle hits. So this is where the line and coming towards us needs to be. So if we then tilt that machine sideways and come in at a bit of an angle, we're going to hit the line where the stencil is, but the ink is not deposited on the very top of the skin. It goes into the second layer of skin, doesn't it? So it's going to be deposited slightly off center. Now, once this heals, we've cleaned the stencil away. Initially, you're going to see like the line on where it's supposed to be, because you're going to be able to see the ink on the surface of the skin where that little hole were made. There's going to be excess ink. You're going to see that. But once it all heals and we renew, on average 6 weeks to renew the surface of the skin, it's then visible off center, which means that your lines, if you're doing a line and then you're changing the angle of the machine, it's going to make the line look like it's got a blowout. It's not going to be perfectly neat. It's going to be thicker and then thinner, then thick, and look a mess because you've been swapping the angle of the machine. Technically not necessarily a blowout where it's bleeding under the skin, but a massive cause of it. Now next is depth, and there's so many people get this wrong. Not because they don't understand depth, but because they don't understand how to find the right depth. And I'm going to show you a method which I teach all my students. It don't matter whether you're tattooing somebody old, somebody with really thick skin, thin skin. This method gets you to the right depth every single time. Listen, we've all seen, even the thumbnails on YouTube have got rulers saying this. Everybody's skin is different. There's a way of doing things where you find the right depth every time, no matter who you're tattooing, not by using a ruler or saying you need it. Bullshit. This way of doing it, you can't fail. It gets the right depth every single time without going too deep. Perfect. So the way to get the perfect depth every single time, one, we've got to understand depth. So let's just say this is somebody's skin. This is the first layer. Then underneath that, second, third. So when our needle is penetrating, we're wanting the deposits of ink to be in second layer of skin. This is the complicated bit. So like I say, there's tons of tutorials out there, fucking YouTube thumbnails with rulers saying just have it hanging out this much and you go this millimeter into skin. We don't know how thick the person's skin is. So if a really old person, let's just say we've got a really old female in, typically as they start to get older, their skin starts to get thinner. Completely different thickness skin to what we'd tattoo, let's say a bloke in his 40s that's worked on a building site for years and we're doing a hand tattoo. Thick skin like leather. Completely different way of tattooing. So how, if this measurement changes from one person to another, from one body part to another, how do we know this depth without cutting them open? Well, we don't. There is no set your machine to this depth. There is no this is how deep you go. It is different depending on the body parts, depending on the person. So how do we do it? There is a really easy way. I actually cover it. I think it's the very first lesson, how to tattoo a straight line. And there's a technique that you've got to use that combats this problem. So rather than trying to show you on the whiteboard, I'm going to explain it to you and we'll bob up a bit of footage from the actual course so you can visually see what I'm trying to explain as well. So what we're going to do is with this machine, as needle, as ink, we're going to go towards the skin or the mat if you're practicing, and we're going to wait and as soon as we see the needle hit the skin, there's going to be a tiny little pool of ink. You're going to see the ink sat on the skin. We know then, right, I've just made contact. What we're going to do then is go in a slight bit further, just a very slight bit, and we're going to do a small line. If you're new to tattooing or you've never tattooed a person, but you've had tattoos, you'll notice when the very first start, they just do a small little bit and give it a wipe. There's a reason for that. They're getting used to skin. They're understanding, right, this is how deep I need to go. This is how easy ink goes in. So what you do, you wait for that little dot, go a little bit deeper, do a little line, then you give it a clean. Now, on the mats, it's going to be really clear, but on a person, it is also really clear. If when you wipe it away, it's patchy, there's little bits of the line that's not quite solid, then you haven't gone deep enough. Not a problem. We're testing, we're understanding, we're starting to learn how deep to go on this person. Once you've got a few years experience, you almost naturally instantly just go to right depth because everybody's similar sort of depth with slight variations. So once you've touched the skin, the next time you go just a slight bit deeper, do your line, wipe it, it's now solid. You've now got a feel for the exact depth. What might then happen is you might be doing tattoo, you might do bottom half of a tattoo, but as you're moving up, the skin changes and you'll start to notice, God, it's not going in quite as well. It might be a thicker area of skin. You might have to do the little test again. You might have to go a little bit deeper on that body part or the opposite. So if you think, God, that's just instantly going in, it looks like it's damaging the skin, try coming out a little bit, don't go as far in. If the ink is going in and it's solid, that's deep enough. You always want to be edging on the second layer of skin. You want to be closer to the first layer of skin rather than going too deep towards the third, because once you hit this third layer of skin, that's when it starts bleeding out. Here, it holds it in place. Here, it's got the ability to move. When you're looking at lines, shading, just tattoos in general, if you see like a dot and then it almost looks like a bruise after, as if something's leaked behind it, that is an extreme blowout. They've gone far too deep, they've gone into the third layer of skin, and it's just allowed that ink movement and it's just gone, it's just spread. Obviously we're looking through something, the skin, it's transparent, we're a little bit colour so we can see through and we can see all that dispersed ink. So that's why when you tattoo and it all looks bruised in background, they have gone too deep. So in one sentence, if you're doing straight lines and you're getting that blowout or that inconsistency, these are the two main things that you need to focus on. Now, like I said, I've got a full lesson teaching you how to do a straight line, not just to avoid the blowouts, but the techniques on actually doing the line as well, that cover everything with drills, so you can't do it wrong. You put the hours in, you put the practice in, and this should never happen when you are on a person, or at least not a consistent thing that you don't know how to fix. Everybody makes mistakes, it's natural. I've had lines where I think, fucking hell, I've gone a little bit too deep there. I just fix it as I'm going. And every other artist, if they say that they haven't had it, they're lying. But it should never be an issue. It should be never something that's causing problems. So, I hope that clarified things. I hope that made sense to you. Like I say, I've done my best. I've verbally explained it. I've showed you on whiteboard. There's been clips overlaid from the actual course so you can see visual diagrams showing what I meant. Everybody learns different. And on this channel, look, my goal is to make you the best artist that you can possibly be. If I help contribute towards that, then it means that I've done my job properly. So I try and explain things in the best way possible so it just makes sense and it's simple. But also there's the actionable steps. So like I say, as long as this made sense to you, now let's do the actionable steps and put all this into practice. Jump onto the other videos, there's loads on my channel where how to tattoo a straight line. And it will show you the exact formulas, there's multiple steps, and we'll do drills together so we can implement everything and not make these mistakes again. Listen, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, it really helps the channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, give it a like, and let me know what you think in the comments. I do my best to try and get back to every single one of you. Like I say, I appreciate you for being here. Thank you for your time and listening. If I've helped a little bit, then I've done my job, haven't I? But as always, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.